Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Hobbitcast. I'm your host, Ben McDonald, and today we're going to have another ketogenic diet fireside chat. I'll be joined by my lovely co-host, Karen. Karen, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Ben?
Oh, I am excited about today's podcast. This is going to be a good one. We get to knock down a lot of things that a lot of people have questions about today.
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm very excited about this.
We went through and tried to come up with the 10 keto questions that we keep seeing over and over again. I'm tired of answering them. Karen's tired of answering them. Everybody's tired of answering them.
Yeah, we see them a lot, eh?
We do. So we thought what we would do is take these common questions, put them all in one place, and talk a little bit longer form instead of that quick answer that we normally bark out on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
So that you have a little bit more detail so that when you need to know exactly what's going on why we're making these suggestions, you have a sense of what the skinny is on some of this stuff.
You get the what and the why.
There you go. All right, Karen. Well, we might as well just jump right in here, I think.
I think so, too. Keto biology, Ben.
Yes. I get to talk about salt.
Oh, yay! You don't like talking about salt at all.
No, not salt. All right. So here is keto common question number 1. Why am I tired and leg crampy on keto?
I'm really sick. What's wrong?
Yes. Here is the answer. When you go into ketosis, you have what is known as a change in your blood volume. This is commonly referred to as hydration, although that's not technically accurate. I use that term on the Facebook group because people will throw fruit at me if I get too nerdy. But what it means is when you're in ketosis and you start to you really make that transition, you start throwing ketones out. Yeah. Your blood changes, and the way that it changes is it gets a little more acidic and it starts tickling your kidneys in a slightly different way. And what that causes is when you start to urinate, you actually pass out more water, more liquid than you normally would, including electrolytes. Now, specifically, this is going to be salt. This is also going to be magnesium, potassium, and calcium, and chloride. Mm-hmm. But the big one is salt, because salt is the dominant electrolyte when it comes to blood volume. If your blood volume is low, Karen, some of the things that will happen to you include being tired, being fatigued, getting crazy leg cramps, getting constipated. Mm-hmm. All of these things are caused by low blood volume as a result of your body reacting to a low electrolyte situation caused by your ketogenic state. Mm-hmm. Therefore, here's what you have to do.
What do I have to do?
You gots to get some salt. We need you to figure out how to jam in some salt. Now, we know from Finney and Volek that the amount of sodium that a ketogenic dieter needs is somewhere around 4,000 milligrams of sodium. Now, to translate that into English, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, just regular old table salt.
It doesn't matter what type of salt that I use?
Oh, that's a good question. It can be table salt that has a little bit of iodine in it. That's perfectly fine. The pink stuff is fine. Kosher salt is fine. So whatever you got around, there is no real health benefit to using pink salt, despite the claims people make. So whatever salt you want to get your hands on is fine.
All right. Sounds good.
Even the salt that's in chicken broth cubes, those little bouillon cubes. That's perfectly good salt, too.
Okay, or in pickle juice, maybe.
Pickle juice is another great one. That's a great one. Any way that you can find something super salty and get it in is fantastic. Your goal is to accumulate around 4,000 milligrams of sodium. I'm going to recommend that you consider taking 1.5 teaspoons of table salt, putting it into a little dish every morning. And then, so that's how you start out the day. Now, put a little sprinkle in every little glass of water that you have, salt your eggs, salt your salad, put some on your steak for dinner. Make that dish of 1.5 teaspoons go away. That gives you 2,500 milligrams of sodium. And that between that and the food that you eat, that'll put you right about 4,000, and that should be good.
Great.
Just that right there will take care of almost every leg cramp problem. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you are currently up at 2 a.m. because you just had a crazy leg cramp, here's the quick fix. Put a quarter teaspoon of salt and a quarter teaspoon of baking soda into half a glass of cold water, and then put a little shot of caramel coffee syrup, or, like a Mio drop or lemonade powder or something in there, and just pound that thing. So a quarter teaspoon of salt, quarter teaspoon of baking soda. That will instantly give you a nice shot of electrolytes, give you some fluid for that to really be absorbed. And then just massage that thing out, and within 15 minutes, you should be back to where you need to be. So that's the quick fix. That's not what you do every day, but that's what you do in a crisis.
Sounds good.
The next piece of this is magnesium. 50% of Americans are magnesium deficient. You are magnesium deficient if you are not taking magnesium. This is a terrible side effect of the lack of crop rotation, thanks to the U.S. government's subsidies on crops. Our soil is depleted of magnesium. Yeah. Therefore, the magnesium that used to be in food is no longer in food. So sorry, take your magnesium pills. I recommend magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate. Either of those are fine. I do think citrate is okay. Do not take oxide. If you have magnesium that you bought real cheap, if you look on the back of it and it just says magnesium without having any disclaimer on it, it's magnesium oxide, because magnesium oxide is really cheap, and magnesium oxide is incredibly impotent. It passes right through your body. Only 6% of that magnesium will be absorbed. The rest of it just passes right out the rear end and goes down the toilet. So it is not an effective form of magnesium supplementation. You must acquire one of these fancier forms of magnesium. It is my understanding that Walmart carries magnesium citrate in a pill form. And of course, from Amazon, you can get our favorite Source Naturals magnesium malate.
Yeah.
All right. As far as potassium, Karen, we have a delicate dance to walk on this potassium situation.
Yeah, you have to be a little careful with that one.
Do you know why that is?
It can really affect your heart. You can get into a bad situation very quickly if you've taken too much potassium. So the safest bet, without a doctor's supervision, is to eat your magnesium in the form of foods. And that's what I do until my doctor tells me otherwise, and I'm following my physician's strict protocol of exactly how much potassium I need to be supplementing. I eat my potassium.
But in the other groups, they say to use no salt and to supplement 1,000 milligrams of potassium.
I choose not to do that, just for my own personal health reasons. I do have a heart condition, so I take that very seriously.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing with this potassium, that if you don't have enough, you have heart problems, and if you have too much, you have heart problems. So
so it's
spooky.
kind of best it's best to sort of get your doctor's opinion, get a blood panel done, and that way you'll know for sure.
So, Karen, you mentioned eating your potassium. What kinds of foods would you normally recommend for that?
Oh, there are lots of lovely foods that are keto friendly that you can eat that have lots of potassium. Spinach is a good one. Kale, mushrooms. There are lots of protein sources too that have all those lovely fats in them as well. There's pork and there is salmon. Salmon is an amazing source of healthy fats, and it includes a great deal of potassium. And then we have our lovely avocado. The avocado is it has more potassium than you would get out of a banana or a potato.
Nice. Well, we'll be talking about avocados again in the show, so
I hope
keep
so.
that in mind. All right. So to summarize, you need to take salt, you need to take magnesium, do not take potassium, and you do not need to take chloride or calcium in most cases. Under doctor's advisement, do whatever you want because that's your doctor's problem.
And it's geared towards your particular needs. You'll know
That's
exactly what you need to take.
I do recommend that if you are athletic and you're running, 10 miles out in the hot sun, that you take a more prescriptive approach to electrolyte supplementation. That's kind of out of the scope of this particular podcast. I just want to note it that, if we've got some CrossFitters in here that are, sweating up a storm for 90 minutes,
Yeah,
you're going to need to punch up the salt and probably mag and potassium too, because when you start sweating that stuff, you can blow through a day's worth of electrolytes real fast when you're sweating bad.
Yeah, I was in a gym that was, it was like 102 degrees Fahrenheit, doing Zumba for an hour. And at the end of the class, everybody had their water bottles, but then I ransacked my purse and tore into a packet of salt and downed that in front of this lady that was absolutely horrified as to what I was doing. It was actually pretty funny. I think I might have growled a little.
And that's a really good point, Karen, is if you're not equipping yourself with an emergency salt pack, you probably should have one in your purse or your wallet, because you never know when you're going to get caught somewhere where you are sweating up a lot more than you anticipated. And that sweat and salt go real good together in keto. So keep that in mind.
Yep.
Speaking of sweat, Karen.
Yes.
How do I get my gallon of water in every day?
You don't. Okay, so here's the deal. We've been told, I don't know why we're told this, but we're told that we need to drink so much water. I don't know. I've heard that it helps you flush out your fat as you're losing weight.
That sounds great.
I have no idea how. I don't know why people think that works, but here's what's going to happen. You just need to drink water to thirst. Have water when you're thirsty. You'll be more thirsty when you're out in the hot sun. You'll be more thirsty when you exercise. Have more then. But if you're not thirsty, don't drink all that water. I see people doing this ridiculous thing where they have a gallon jug and they've got it measured that they're going to have this much by 10 a.m. and this much by 12, and this much by 2. Don't do that to yourself. You'll be sloshing around, and what's going to happen is you're going to be increasing the amount that you urinate, and you're just going to be flushing more of that salt out. So you'll just end up in worse trouble than you were before, and you're not going to be better hydrated. It doesn't work that way.
That's right. That goes right back to the salt and mag conversation. Your blood chemistry is a little different than normal people. When you drink a big bolus of water like that, you are actually going to drink water and flush fluid, which is a technical term for you're going to drink the bottle of water and then you're going to pee out electrolytes, and then you're not going to have enough blood volume. And then you're going to get lightheaded, headaches, tired, cramps. All those things will happen to you because you're trying to stay hydrated. And in fact, you have dehydrated yourself. So good job.
So please just drink water to thirst. Don't force it. Don't make yourself feel like you're going to be sick and slooshing around. I see that particularly in a lot of the recipe low carb boards that I lurk on, all these ladies talking about getting that water in, and it just isn't necessary.
Yeah, just drink all you want.
Yeah.
Karen, how often in a day do you think, gee, I need to drink a little bit here?
With me, probably every few hours. It really depends on the day.
Yeah.
Depends on the day, and it depends on what I'm doing.
I'm not even sure I could answer that question because I don't think about it. When I'm thirsty, I drink water.
Yeah, I got my little water cooler, and I go get a glass if I'm thirsty, and that's about it.
That's it. Yeah. Don't overthink this water thing.
Nah. And don't have that giant jug with the time written on it. Don't do that.
Let's not do that. Okay. On the theme of water,
Yes.
what's up with this peeing on a stick stuff I hear about?
All right. So there are these little keto sticks. You get them at the pharmacy. I know in Canada, you ask the pharmacist for them. They're behind the counter.
Hmm.
And you can
So,
bring them home.
just to be clear, in the U.S., they are not behind the counter. They're actually going to be out on the diabetic wall next to all the little meters and displays and stuff. They'll actually be right there on the shelf. They're not behind the desk.
Well, they keep them behind the counter here. And
Thieving Canadians.
I think it's more of a, why are you spilling ketones if you're diabetic? I think that's the concern.
They're so dangerous.
They're so dangerous, I know. They also keep the head lice treatment back there too, so I don't know.
Oh, nice.
I have no idea. But it's there by the head lice stuff. So
right. Keto sticks.
Keto sticks. So I have used these. I used these. I think the last time I used one was 15 years ago.
Nice.
I had just read Atkins' book, and I wasn't entirely convinced that eating fat and doing all the things that Atkins said to do would help me lose weight, because I was just convinced that you had to eat low fat and you had to suffer to lose weight. So I bought these little sticks, and sure enough, they were dark purple, because I had lots of fat to burn. And so it just gave me that peace of mind when I first started, that yes, in fact, I was producing ketones. And after that, I stopped using them, and they just sort of expired, and I never bought another kit. I know when we started following a ketogenic diet, I didn't use them, but my husband did buy a vial of them, just because he wasn't losing as fast as I was, and he just wanted to make sure, because he didn't weigh his food, that he was not overindulging in the carbs, and that he was in fact producing ketones.
All right. Well, that seems reasonable if you're that type of personality where you got to know what's up. You're going to go ahead and make that big $10 investment in these pea sticks.
That's right. But with me, I am the type of person that I'm quite regimented in what I do. So I knew exactly what I was eating. And because I had followed a low carb diet for a long time before, I knew that it was effective, that I wasn't somehow mysteriously not doing it right.
Yeah, and I have a little bit different point of view on this. I think that for newbies that are looking for reassurance that they're doing it right, this is a good way to spend $10.
Yeah, it's just a visual thing. It gives you that little peace of mind.
If you are accurately logging your food, as you know, Karen and I advocate, especially for newbies, that you have a food log, a food diary, you're writing everything down, you're weighing and measuring, you know what's going in your mouth. There's no reason for you to have these keto sticks as a ketone measurement, because if you are eating less than 20 carbs, you will be in ketosis after a week or so.
Sure.
That is a physical impossibility not to be true.
Yep.
Now, if you're in that state and you, for some reason, suspect that you're not in ketosis, go get the sticks. But I say save the $10 for bacon.
I agree.
So I think the takeaway message that I'm hearing you say, Karen, is that if you're someone that needs the reassurance and you've got the $10 to blow, go for it. There's no harm in it.
There's no biggie, but it only tells you so much. Like when it just tells you that you are in ketosis, it's sort of like a pregnancy test. You are, you aren't. Pay no attention to the color. It could be pink. It could be dark purple.
Yeah, that's good.
It just gives you that little visual peace of mind.
With that in mind too, I also want to point out that we know that about 80% of people will no longer pass extraordinary levels of ketones in their urine after about 2 months.
Yeah.
So here you are, Keto Pro, 6 months down the line, and you whiz on one of these little sticks, and it barely changes color. It doesn't.
Yeah,
Do anything.
especially if you're exercising, then
Yeah.
you won't be spilling the ketones, you'll be using them to get through
Mhm.
your workout.
That's right. So don't sweat it if you're a keto vet. This is really
Yeah.
a newbie tool for sure.
Yeah.
Karen, you are the only one of the two of us who knows anything about Atkins. So I'm going to throw
Yeah.
this next question to you that we get all the time, which is this like Atkins?
Okay, so yes and no. No, I followed that's how I was introduced to the low carb way of eating. It was 15 years ago through Atkins. Dr. Atkins was still with us then, and I read his book twice, and then I was convinced to try this. Now, Atkins, in its induction section, is a ketogenic diet. So when you're beginning Atkins, for at least a few weeks, you're doing less than 20 carbs, that you are ingesting less than 20 carbs. So it is by definition a ketogenic diet then. Now, as you keep going, their new program, they are a little more focused on protein and a little less focused on fat than we are in the more traditional ketogenic diet. And then they start adding carbs. So when you're following Atkins, when you get towards the last, 10, 20 pounds that you need to lose, you're starting to eat things like a little bit of sweet potato and a little bit of higher carb vegetables and even fruits.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't do that with a ketogenic diet. So yes and no.
All right. So why am I remembering something about like phase 1 and phase 2? Is that the new language that they use?
That's the new one. So phase 1 is your induction.
Okay.
And that's if you have a lot of weight to lose with the Atkins diet, they recommend staying in phase 1 for a long time. And that is the ketogenic part. That is the fat burning part of the diet. And with that one, you are restricted to the lower carb leafy green vegetables, and you don't start adding in all these things that can slow down your weight loss progress.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's heavier in meat. They've got more meat.
Now, Atkins is the one. I didn't put this on the list, but since we're talking about Atkins,
yeah.
Atkins is the one that kind of got everybody worried about the kidneys, right?
Yeah. It's well, you'd have to eat a lot of meat to start worrying about your kidneys. I didn't eat that much meat when I did Atkins. I ate enough. So, unless you're just pounding back the ribeyes, I don't think you really need to worry about it during the phase 1 of Atkins, the induction phase.
And if you use the macros that we kind of recommend, and most of the groups are kind of in this ballpark too. If you're eating between 75 and 150 grams of protein per day, you are not risking your kidneys at all. And
no.
In fact, you could probably go quite a bit higher than that without any trouble. But for most of the weight loss folks, especially who are going to be limiting it to that 120, 90 to 120 range is where most folks are going to be rolling around. There's no risk. That is medium protein. There's no risk. You're not going to go into ketonuria or any weird stuff like that where you're throwing off so much urea that your kidneys can't process it.
No, it doesn't happen.
It's just not. It's not a thing. It's a thing if you have compromised kidney function. You have to be careful about eating protein, but that's that is a self-selecting population. You are quite aware of the fact that you have compromised kidneys if you do.
Yeah, no, and if you're our average female user that's following our macros, you're only going to be eating about 70, 80 grams. That's
Right.
nothing. That's you're not pounding back the ribeyes and the chicken breasts and all that with that level.
Cool.
It's not an all you can eat meat buffet.
I figured we'd hit that since we were talking about Atkins.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this one's a little more interesting because this is a very situational question, which is what to order when I eat out. This is
Hmm.
something that we get a lot of, hey, I'm going to the fair, or hey, I got to have lunch with my coworkers next week, or I'm on a road trip and we're coming up on an exit. What do I do?
Hmm. Well, I mean, unless, you're going to be a hermit while you're trying to lose weight and improve your health, these things are going to happen that you've got to eat outside the house. So we'll start with the fast food places. Your typical burger joint, a lot of these places will offer lettuce as an alternative to a bun.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
can ask for that. Just be
Okay.
careful with the ketchup. The ketchup can be sugary. Make sure there's no barbecue sauce
Yeah.
and no sweet pickle. And the other thing that I like to order, I order from McDonald's is the grilled chicken Caesar salad. So it's your basic Caesar salad. Make sure you check the dressing to make sure it's not loaded with sugar. And this one
Hmm.
is just leafy greens, shaved Parmesan, grilled chicken, and you just say no croutons. Tell them, you can't have bread or whatever, and they won't be there.
The grilled chicken Caesar salad is by far your staple go-to whenever you're going somewhere. My wife
Yeah.
just went to Panera Bread for lunch with a friend, and we spent a few minutes looking at the online menu. And what we came up with, the best thing on the menu, is the grilled chicken Caesar salad, 4 carbs, includes the
Yep.
dressing, and even has those little Parmesan wisps instead of croutons.
Ooh, yeah, we didn't have those up here, but shaved Parmesan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so what about the scenario where, all right, so we talked about burger joints, we kind of talked about those mid-grade places. What about a nice meal? Like you're going out to dinner with the boss, or you're taking the wife out for a nice thing out in the town. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for seafood. As long as it's not breaded or coming in a creamy sauce. So you can always get seafood with just, melted butter. Um, I often order just like rotisserie chicken if they have that, or
Hmm.
steak. And then it often comes with sides. I just ask for extra vegetables. So they
Okay.
usually give you, yeah, they load you up with the broccoli, and
Hmm.
I ask questions. I make sure that they're not going to put barbecue sauce or anything that's starchy on there that I wasn't expecting. No gravies made out of flowers. You just ask the questions. You can do that when you're in a sit down restaurant. The waiter won't mind. And usually they can accommodate you when you tell them what your needs are.
Yeah. I've never been in a place where I haven't been able to figure something out.
Yeah. No, I've never had that situation either. There's always, surf and turf.
Hmm. All right, so just to do one more lap on the lunch stuff, because I think this comes up for a lot of people. If you're out for lunch, what are your top 3 go-to places? You talked about McDonald's Caesar salads for sure. What else can you grab on the go?
You know what I like to order a lot when I'm just like at a family restaurant? Oftentimes I'm out with my son, so we're at the more family sit down
Yeah.
chain restaurant. A lot of those places they do breakfast for dinner, and I will order eggs,
Oh, that's smart.
and that works. And instead of potato, sometimes they'll offer um, a substitute of vegetables or a salad. So I get that a lot.
Cool. All right. Let us continue on to the next question, which is drinking while on keto.
Drinking while on keto. We get this question a lot. A lot on Fridays. But yeah, drink. Yeah, how do I get my drink on?
Yes.
Sometimes we get like 5 questions right in a row, all about what can I drink, how much can I drink, how often can I drink, what
Mhm.
do people like to drink?
Yes.
Yeah. So drinking doesn't really mix with keto that well, but we live in the real world. Sometimes you want to have an adult beverage, and that is okay as long as you limit what you're drinking. So with me, it's 1 or 2 units of alcohol, and when I say units, I mean 1 ounce of hard liquor, um, a few ounces of wine, or a pint of low carb beer. So you're not getting the goblet of wine. When I say 1 unit of wine, it's not a fish bowl. It's 1 glass, like what they would serve you at a restaurant when you ordered one wine. They're not going to, just pour as much and fill it to the top. They're going to give you exactly those, 3 ounces.
Right.
So, so sometimes I like to have a little gin or some Merlot, but I make sure that it's a small amount and I don't overdo it. And if you're the type of person that likes a glass of wine, just stick to 1 or 2 and only do that every, once or twice a week.
Now, I've heard that drinking on keto is dangerous, Karen.
Well, I mean, it is if you're going to drink the whole bottle. If you're going to have that fish bowl of wine, you might be in trouble. But having one drink is fine. Getting blasted could be quite dangerous.
Yeah, and there's one other thing I want to point out here is your ability to buffer alcohol is actually reduced because of a bunch of metabolic stuff. You don't have the glycogen to metabolize it properly. So basically, when you drink booze while you are on keto, it goes straight to your brain. Like there is no passing go. There's no getting a light buzz going. It is full on 0 to 60, one and done.
It's very
We,
true.
we actually had one of our admins, Sandra. She has one of those little pocket breathalyzers or whatever. She drank a glass of wine and blew a 0.18. It's like one glass of wine, and she was off the charts.
She should
And
not be driving.
she most certainly would get a DUI ticket if she blew into that thing. So I want you to be real careful if you do decide to drink on keto. Until you have a good tolerances and what it does to you, that what you thought is no big deal becomes a very big deal indeed. My wife is the same way. 1 glass of wine and kaboomy. So we definitely discourage anyone from taking any sorts of risks around drinking and driving until you have a real good sense of how quickly that much booze can go straight between your ears. There is a dangerous piece of drinking while on keto, and that is if you're the kind of person who really likes to tie one on and get blackout drunk, you can't do that on keto. It is not safe. That goes from no big deal to a very serious medical situation very quickly. If you are someone who is struggling with the amount of booze that you like to drink, keto is probably not for you at this time. Mm-hmm. I just want to throw that out there. You know who you are. I just want to make sure you hear me loud and clear on that, because that's a good way to get into a serious situation medically, and nobody wants to see you get into trouble over bacon.
No.
I did put up on the video a little carb count in alcoholic beverages. Just that's another question that comes up, which is what can I drink? And
And look at that. My beloved gin is right at the top of the list.
that's right. What we wanted, since we've got folks doing the podcast, gin, rum, vodka, tequila, brandy, whiskey, all that stuff, there's no carbs in there, so no big deal. Champagne is actually one of the better wines you can drink because anything that's like super dry and bitter.
Yeah, we're talking like the dry stuff, not the super sugary sweet stuff.
Yeah, not a dessert champagne, but like a real deal long ferment champagne that's been sitting in a cave somewhere for a while.
Yeah.
Your red and white wines are going to have about 4 carbs per glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts getting sketchy when you start getting into like a normal beer. A normal beer has 10 grams of carbs in it, but they do have like those Michelob Ultras and stuff that I think are in the 3 to 4 carb range. Just be real careful. And it's pretty much hard liquor, a little bit of wine, or, you know, these low carb beers. You start getting into, you know, stuff like, the amarettos and, you know, some of these mixed drinks with the creme de menthe and all that stuff. And there's no sweet dessert Rieslings while on keto. I mean, that Riesling will have 14 grams of carb in it per glass. It'll crush you.
Yeah, my husband is a big fan of fortified wines, and that's not going to happen. There will be no tawny or
Nice.
anything like that. No, no port. But,
nope. So that hopefully will answer a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along on to let's get into some of these macro details.
All right.
Karen, I want some candy.
Do you?
I found these awesome candies. They're made by Russel Stover.
Were they in a green foil packet?
That's right. They come in a green foil packet, and that says chocolate caramel turtle cluster on it.
Oh, those are amazing.
It says it's only got 3 net carbs, though.
Yeah, that's not true at all.
Oh,
really? So
so
daily we see packets of either Atkins Indulge candies or Russel Stover candies. They are.
You killed me with that. Atkins.
So it's the Indulge candies. So I'm going to tell you right now, they taste like the real thing.
Oh, they do. They are Snickers bar. They have a Snickers bar,
and they've got peanut M&Ms. I mean, they taste exactly like peanut M&Ms. Okay, so and they will, especially the Atkins, they will tell you this only has 3 net carbs, 2 net.
That's right, right on the box.
And the Russel Stover one's like, oh my goodness, if you get those little like peppermint patties, it's like 1 net carb per serving because you subtract the sugar alcohols, right? But here's the thing. Those candies that actually taste exactly like the real ones, they're sweetened with a sugar alcohol called maltitol.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular sugar alcohol will get you into a whole mess of trouble. First of all, what's going to happen is that about a half hour after you eat it, your stomach is going to start to gurgle. Because you're not going to eat just 1 serving because it's only 1 net carb per serving. So why not eat the whole bag of peppermint patties? Believe me, I'm telling you this because I've done it. Okay, it's happened. It happened to me with. I think it was ice cream Stover. It was ice cream. This was 15 years ago. And oh my goodness. So my stomach started gurgling. I thought I had the stomach flu. It was terrible. Everything will just pass right through you. There is no digestion going on at all.
There is an admin in our group whose name rhymes with Smathy.
Smathy, yes.
Just had 2 big old chocolate bars full of sugar alcohol and had to pay the full price.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, with this, you will have digestive upset.
Okay.
If you really want to hear about what's going to happen, you can go on Amazon and read the review for the maltitol sweetened gummy bears.
Yeah, sugar-free. Search for Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, and give yourself about 30 minutes to read and laugh.
Yeah, you will laugh a lot. So, and it is not an exaggeration. I'm telling you right now, this is something that I went through because 15 years ago, I followed the Atkins rules, and he said that I could subtract sugar alcohols, and maltitol is a sugar alcohol. Now, it has a laxative effect, and if you look on the tiny little writing on these packets, it will say overconsumption has a laxative effect. Like you're going to pay any attention to that because it's like, oh, I get candy again. No, 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 no.
That's right. The jelly beans actually have a warning on the box that says, we recommend against eating more than 8 jelly beans at a time.
And these aren't even real size jelly beans. These are Jelly Belly sized jelly beans. Who only eats 8 of those?
Exactly. We recommend against eating more than 8 Jelly Bellies due to the laxative nature of the product.
God.
Holy macaroni.
Yeah. So, okay. So, 2 things.
Right.
They're going to make you sick. And the other one, I mean, you know a little bit more about this. I mean, you can't subtract maltitol like a regular sugar alcohol because it's like eating 50% sugar.
Right. So here's the deal with this. For a lot of these sugar alcohols, they chemically are very similar to sugar. And so when they hit your tongue, they taste sweet and delightful. But then
they really do.
The way that your body actually digests things is you have these things called enzymes, and it's a lock and key system. So you have an enzyme that can digest sugar in a very specific way. And if the enzyme doesn't exactly fit the lock, if the key doesn't fit the lock, it doesn't turn, which means it passes right through. So you can take some of these sweeteners and then they kind of pass through without turning into actual calories, even though they're chemically really similar. Unfortunately for maltitol, it is so chemically similar that about 50% of it does turn into sugar anyways. So what'll happen is, even though you look on the back of the box and it says 10 carbs, but 9 sugar alcohol. So you go, oh, cool, 1 net carb. No. It's 4.5 carbs for that thing. Because when you eat that, it is like it's like eating 4 carbs of candy. Mm-hmm. It will turn straight into sugar if you bust out your blood glucose meter. Every diabetic knows what I'm saying is straight up and down the truth.
Yep.
So
yeah, and even if you don't have that blood glucose spike, I find with myself, I don't have diabetes, so I didn't find that much of an increase in my blood glucose, but I'm producing a whole lot of insulin, right?
Right. Just because your blood glucose doesn't go over 120 doesn't mean you aren't dumping gobs of insulin to try and keep it under 120.
And then after you're hungry because you just dumped all that insulin.
Oh, well, this is the bad part about these Russel Stovers. So you eat one, it turns into sugar. So you release a whole bunch of insulin, which dumps the sugar and makes your body go, oh, you ought to have some more of those. And then you get this crazy craving, and then you've eaten the whole bag.
See, listen to him when he says this. This is the first conversation that I ever had in the group with Ben. I didn't believe him about maltitol. I believed him about the gas because I knew about that part. And I believed him with the laxative effect, but I'm like, oh, now see, I tested my blood glucose. I'm fine. This isn't happening. You're lying. And then I'm like, I'm going to go to the drugstore and I'm going to buy a whole bag of Russel Stovers and I'm going to eat all those little peppermint patties. And then the next morning, dear Lord, I was so hungry and I hadn't wanted breakfast for a month. Yeah. And then I just woke up and I wanted to eat all the things. All the things. I mean, there was still in my pantry at that point half a box of pancake mix and I'm like, oh, I want pancakes, real pancakes.
I remember you sent me that message on that dark day and I thought I had lost you. She's gone
I
to the dark side.
I prevailed though. I made it through, and then yeah, no more green foil packets for me.
Point being here is your lizard brain reacts to sugar, and
Sure.
there's no willpower in the universe that can overcome when your lizard brain flips the switch on this. That's why people eat the whole bag. That's why people eat the whole box of those. They'll get the little M&Ms and go, oh, well, it's only 3 net carbs, but I ate the whole box. So, and then
Yeah.
and then all the other side effects that we're talking about occur. So it's a 1-2 whammy. You get a big whammy of sugar, and you get a big whammy of carb cravings. And now you're 3 days of waiting for all that to burn off and get back into your smooth mojo.
I like to think it was awakening your inner toddler,
Mm-hmm.
and that inner toddler wants candy.
So we'll call out a few of the specific ones that we know are really naughty. All the Russel Stover stuff.
Yeah.
The Brock's, like cinnamon discs and peppermint patties and stuff like that. Those are all maltitol stuff.
The indulge stuff from Atkins. There are some things from Atkins that you can have, but any of the stuff that actually tastes really good.
Anything that looks like a candy replica should be very suspect. And here's how you know that it's a problem. Ingredient number 1 will be maltitol. Ingredient, yeah, it is not good to get into all this maltitol stuff. So I'm trying to think of what else. There is a chocolate bar available at Trader Joe's that appears to be a very low carb sugar alcohol bar, but it is in fact a maltitol bar. So be very cautious about that, because you're buying it thinking you're buying this low carb chocolate, but in fact, you're kind of not.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on that, Karen? Any other brand names you want to call out as being semi-naughty? The Haribo sugar-free gummy bears.
The gummies. The gummies. I had an incident with some licorice. They look like, those little licorice cats.
Oh, yeah. Anything that's gummy. There's no such thing as a keto safe gummy anything. I wish there was, because I'm a gummy fan, but it does not exist.
No.
Cool. All right. Moving right along. Why are there so many carbs in an avocado?
In an avocado, well, an avocado has a lot of fiber. So here's the thing, okay? When you're starting off, the most important thing to keep in mind is your number of carbohydrates in grams that you're eating. Now, there are going to be some foods, like an avocado, that you're going to look at and say, there's 15 grams of carbs in one avocado. How come everybody's eating all these avocados like they're going out of style? But most of that is fiber. And when it comes to things like your broccoli, your kale, your avocado, your leafy greens, your Brussels sprouts, whatever you want to have, when it's one of those whole natural foods, you may subtract the fiber from the total carbs to get net carbs, and it won't hurt you at all. As a matter of fact, it's going to be beneficial for you. So go ahead and have those things. Now, I really don't like seeing people that are just starting off having all these sort of shenanigans going on with the net carbs when it comes to things made out of sugar alcohols and ground nuts and dairy. So we're talking your keto treats, your mug cakes, your fat bombs, all that stuff. Like if you're using net carbs for peanut butter fat bombs and you're doing that your second day, you're going to have a hard time. I'm not saying you won't succeed. I'm just saying you're not going to make it easier on yourself. So,
that's right. Those Quest bars are, even though they look like they're only 3 net carbs, don't get cute with yourself.
Yeah. So when it comes to things that, that are whole and natural, like your vegetables, go ahead and subtract those things. But when it comes to stuff that's processed or packaged or treats that you make for yourself, I would skip those altogether the first month until your tastes adjust. And then, if you want to get cute with those net carbs, 6 weeks, 2 months down the road, because you're only having them once a week, then go ahead. But if this is something that you're going to eat on a daily basis instead of the avocado,
Uh-huh.
that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So this brings us to our next question that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
This MyFitnessPal app is definitely the far and away most popular version of the food diary apps. It's got a little thing goes on your phone. There's a PC version, the whole deal, right?
Yeah, I use it because it's easy on my phone.
There's a weird quirk of this application, and this is an app that I don't really use. I do the Lose It that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I keep seeing these pie charts with percentages on it, and then
It's
people will send me the little PMs and be like, "Hey, my macros are 75, 20, and 5. Is
okay,
that
that tells you
good?"
nothing. Yeah.
And
Maybe. But we don't know.
why is
Um,
this happen? Why am I getting this PM this way?
well, because they use the pie chart because it makes their app look cool. If it just has a bunch of numbers, it doesn't look as user friendly and people aren't as likely to use it. But what's important are the total number of grams. If you're having 5% of your food calories in the form of carbs,
Mm-hmm.
you're likely in a good place. But if you're eating 5,000 calories and 5% of those are net carbs, you are in trouble. So we don't use the percentages. What we use are just, so yeah, you want to look at those numbers and not the pretty pie chart. So for me, for my carbohydrates, I try to keep them under 20 for my net carbs. I subtract the vegetable fibers. My fat, I keep it anywhere between 70 and 135.
Mm-hmm.
And my protein, I try to keep it under 90.
There you go.
And that's all that I do.
So what I'm hearing is just ignore this pie chart.
Please ignore the pie chart. Yeah. Don't
Now,
drive yourself crazy with that. That's just all you have to do is just look at what you've eaten and the nutritional information, add it up together. It does all the adding for you. You don't even have to do the math.
the protein is a goal,
Hmm.
the carbs are a limit,
That's right.
and the fat is your throttle,
That's
which
right. So I,
means
I have a range.
you can have less,
Yeah,
don't have more.
that's right.
Okay. Now, there's one other piece to this percentage thing that must happen when you first set up the application, because I get this question, I don't know how to answer it.
Hmm.
What what do people mean when they say I can't get my MyFitnessPal to have the exact macros that you gave me?
Okay, well, you kind of have to tinker with it a little bit. They'll ask you to plug it in as a percentage. And the one
Oh.
the one thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't account for net carbs. So I get a little alarm because I like to eat my kale, I like my kale.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I get a little alarm that goes off saying, your goal is 20 grams of carbs and you've already blown it, with
Yeah.
breakfast. Uh, but what it is that then I go into the nutrition section and it just says, oh, actually, I've only had 7 grams of net carbs. It's just I've had a whole bunch of fiber because I had some avocado and some kale with my eggs.
I see. Well, that explains it because I do get that question, and they're like, "Well, how do I set this up in MyFitnessPal? I can't get it exact." So,
It's what, it's never going to be exact
because
with
it's being
my
put in as
fitness
a
pal.
percentage, you just get it close, and then
That's
that's close
right.
enough.
Yeah, so around what you should be eating. You it doesn't have to be perfect.
Well, I mean,
I
what are you
can't
doing?
stress
Getting
that.
out a razor and shaving the carrot until you get exactly 322 calories for lunch? I mean,
Well,
that
yeah. Yes,
Macros are a
exactly.
range. They're not super specific. We give specific numbers so that you have a target, but
Yeah, just
it's
get around
food.
there if you know
Right.
exactly. It's food, if you're under by 100 calories one day, you're going to be over by 100 calories the next day. So don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're not constantly over.
Yeah. I think this is an area where you can obsess to the point of inefficiency. be, be close, but don't be perfect. Like don't. There's a saying about don't let good get in the or don't let perfect get in the way of good or something like that. And it's just like
Yeah,
if you over obsess on this, you're gonna get into this weird state of well, a perfect tablespoon's real easy to measure when I'm making my peanut butter or whatever snack that I'm making with my celery.
sure.
But that's going to be 82 calories, and I need 87. So I'm going to use this toothpick to get a little bit more peanut butter on there. It's like, what are you doing? don't don't be that guy.
No, no, no. And I talk all the time about how I like following my macros. It works for me, but they're never exactly perfect. There is a range, and if I'm over by 2 carbs one day, I'm really not going to worry about it.
So, Karen, we're talking about macros. I just want to throw this one. This one isn't on the list, but
Sure.
I need to eat this bulletproof coffee and this fat bomb to get my fat macros in. That is a question we get a lot as a statement. There's an
Then,
implied question there, which is, I don't
then,
know what I'm doing.
then put down the fat bomb.
Thank you.
Spit it, drop it.
Right.
No, it's the fat macro. I was talking about before, I have a range. I don't want to go below a certain amount because I don't want to be under eating on my calories.
Right.
That's the only reason. And I don't want to go over because I don't want to stop burning my own body fat as fuel.
That's right.
So you are under no obligation to meet that fat macro. You do not need bulletproof coffees. You do not need fat bombs. Fat bombs are just a candy. It's all that is a treat. Let's not call it something that it isn't. It's just something that you can have that makes life a little more pleasant. If you want to add a little bit more fat on your plate and burn a little less off your tushy, have a fat bomb.
But
Enjoy it.
Karen, if I don't get all my calories in, I'm gonna go into starvation mode and lose muscle.
No, you're not going to do that. You're just going to stop burning body fat.
Correct.
So you're not gonna. I don't know where this. It's like I need to drink water to burn fat. There's also this school of belief that I need to eat more fat if I stop losing weight.
Yeah.
That is contrary to anything that makes sense. There's no reason for you to overeat on your fat. You want to eat enough fat. You don't amount of fat to have maximum fat burning.
Oh,
That just is not true.
I know where it comes from. It comes from a book written by a guy whose name rhymes with Pimmy Boar.
Pimmy Boris had a little trouble with his belt size recently. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can try to make it work, but it's once again it's just something that's going to give you trouble in the long run.
It's a strange thing to want to lose weight using a process of burning one's own energy and then to pursue an inordinate amount of energy intake as a way of thwarting that process. Like, that's just weird to me. The logic of that is confounding. I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you and I both have been banging our heads against the wall about that one.
I mean, everybody's always said if you don't eat enough food, you're going to get sick or you're going to lose, your body will turn on itself to burn whatever.
Well, I mean, that doesn't apply if you're eating a ketogenic diet. I mean, you might have some trouble if you're eating, there's some ladies that are in my exercise class that are living off of the arugula and cucumber, and if they don't eat often, then they're going to run into problems.
That's right.
But because I eat enough protein, not an excessive amount, but because I eat enough protein and because my body is now adapted to burn fat as fuel, you're not going to have that issue.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to say too. It is all about the fact that ketogenic is a metabolic gimmick that allows you to preferentially and optimize for burning fat as fuel. That's the whole point of why you're counting your carbs in the first place, is so that you can run a big calorie deficit and it will get those calories off the rear of the train and burn them as stored fuel, which was the whole reason your body put them there in the first place.
Yeah, that's the whole magic, the gimmick. It's not that you can eat all this bacon and somehow magically burn more of your own body and not metabolize the fat. I don't understand that logic at all. But it's that you're able to run at a slightly larger deficit than people that are living off of the low-fat, high-carb diet. And you can do that without the hunger and the crashes and the whole bunch of insulin running through your body hanging on to your own fat. It's an efficiency thing.
There you go. Okay. Speaking of efficiency.
Yes.
I want an apple.
You can't have one.
Can I just eat 0 carbs all day? I'm going to have an egg for breakfast, bacon for lunch, and then can I have my apple for dinner?
You can have the pig on a spit and you can eat around the apple. That's what you can have.
But I want to have an apple.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this. Somebody said something about, I think it was leeks. And leeks are not a good keto food. It's like an onion. You can have it.
Yeah, they have like 10 carbs per leek or something like that.
Yeah, you can have it as a flavoring. You just can't eat a whole whack of it. So an apple is like that. So the one lady was saying, well, I haven't eaten a lot of carbs today. I'm thinking I'm going to eat this leek. And I said, well, you don't want to do that because this is not how keto works. You can't just hoard your carbs like points from a diet system and eat them all at once. We've kind of got, it's once again in that thinking of, eat more fat to burn fat, drink water to burn fat. It doesn't work like that. You can't hoard your carbs for one meal. I know a lot of people, they only eat 1 or 2 meals a day, but if they save all their carbs for that one meal, you don't have that same efficiency of even insulin levels, low insulin levels. What you're going to have if you eat that apple instead of the pig around it, you're going to get that spike of insulin.
That's what I want to talk about on this point is if you are listening to this podcast, the odds are you have a thick midsection and you have accumulated a little bit of excess girth. So part of that process involved a certain amount of insulin resistance buildup. You are probably insulin resistant and perhaps quite a bit so, maybe even so much so that you've developed prediabetes or full-blown diabetes. The best thing that you can do to heal that condition is to manage your insulin levels so that you stop bombarding your body with insulin and give it enough insulin to get the job done. But when you start having these big spikes, that spikes are bad. That's the whole thing. We have a whole podcast about insulin resistance, and we have all these little tips and tricks about pricking your finger and testing and everything else just to figure out what sweetener to put in your coffee, because the spike that you can get from coffee sweetener can have a derailing effect on your ketogenic journey. It can thwart your ability to heal the insulin resistance, and you will end up being 3 months down the road having lost nary a pound and going, what did I do wrong? I've been sucking on sucralose. Meanwhile, you've been pounding your insulin because you've had this crazy insulin reaction to it. So whenever I see someone doing things like, well, I'm saving up my carbs for this big splurge or whatever else. I mean, that's fine. Do whatever you want. You're a big boy, you're a big girl. You can eat anything you want to, but understand that in an optimal configuration, you are spreading out those carbs across a broad period of time. When you think about your metabolism, it really runs in 5-hour chunks because it starts when you eat the meal. And then for the next 5 or 6 hours, you're going to digest and disperse the energy that came in from that food. Mm-hmm. And then once that's done, you're back to a baseline. And then that 5-hour segment is done. So if you decide to make one of those 5-hour segments a roller coaster ride of mega carbs, because you're gonna burn 25 carbs of sugar and five carbs of fiber to get to your 20 in a day by eating an apple. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can, but you're wasting the efficiency and the benefits of the ketogenic diet.
Right. And we're all about the healing journey here. And the two things that I think keto can really make a big difference on is it can help you lose physical weight by burning the excess fat, but it can also help your general wellness by helping you manage your insulin, your blood glucose levels through keeping your insulin levels low and these spikes of inbound nutrients as low as possible and as smooth as possible. We talk about intermittent fasting in some of the other shows, and what that's all about is giving your body a break from these carb spikes, and you can undo all the good work of those insulins by eating a big apple. And you spend 16 hours on an insulin holiday because you haven't eaten any garbage, no big spikes of glucose. You haven't eaten any food of any kind. And you go, well, I've been good. I got 20 carbs left. Let me pound this, delightful carrot salad with raisins in it. Okay. But you just undid all that good work because now you're just beating on those insulin receptors just as hard as you can. And will you lose weight? Maybe, maybe not. But you are definitely traumatizing that insulin sensitivity, which is ultimately part of the goal of your health and wellness, is to get that insulin sensitivity very high.
Yeah, and that's the way that I look at it, is that if you're not working on that insulin sensitivity, if you're not doing, the work to reverse insulin resistance or prediabetes, what's going to happen is that you're going to have to work twice as hard for half the results because you haven't had that healing process happen.
Cool. Well, Karen, I think those are our 10 questions.
I think so.
I was really glad to have the time to do a long form answer on those, because one of my frustrations with using Facebook, and for those of you tuning into the podcast, you may have found us through iTunes or YouTube. Karen and I kind of represent this Facebook group called, what's it called again, Karen?
Ketogenic Open Discussion, and Keto Plus, it's about the food.
There you go.
2 different groups.
I think you got the name wrong, though. I would just like to point that out for the record.
Did I?
I think you did. I think.
Oh, no.
I think the name of it is actually, I'm going to look it up here because I think it is the Ketogenic Diet Open Discussion.
Okay, Ketogenic
Diet Open Discussion.
I forgot the diet part.
Neither
then,
Karen nor I named this group. We would have chosen something a lot easier to remember, like the bacon and broccoli open discussion group or something.
Yeah, I think bacon and broccoli would have worked, or chicken and kale or something.
There you go. So if you go on Facebook, you can join the conversation. We've got 12,000 members in the ketogenic open discussion, and we've got another 12,000 in the Keto Plus recipe group. So if you're looking for cool stuff to cook, or a support group for people to talk to and ask questions with and journey together, that's what we do. With that in mind, we'd like to talk a little bit about some recipe stuff. We have a friend of ours named Scott who wrote a cookbook that's all focused on taking foods that you'd recognize and turning them into keto safe food. The aforementioned almond flour and such like that. He's figured out how to make things like peanut butter cookies, bagels, how to make pasta even that's keto safe.
Yep.
So he's got a cookbook and a website that's got all those recipes for free. And of course, the ebook for the cookbook's only $4, really easy to order. And the URL for that is shecallsmehobbit.com/store. You can get that, and all the recipes are. Here's the thing about Scott. He is a really bad businessman. Every recipe in the book is on the website for free. So I'm not exactly sure what the model for that is, other than you get to have the book on your little Kindle app while you're reading through there. But
yeah,
it's all up there. Check it out.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff.
Karen, I'm going to read this ridiculous disclaimer, as I always do, and we're going to call this one a wrap.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Ben.
No one in this podcast is a provider of healthcare, and our discussion is based on things we read on the internet. It's not our intent to render medical advice for your unique situation. Only you and your doctor can make decisions regarding your medical treatment, diagnosis, and especially the impact of prescription medication. Always check with your prescribing doctor on the compatibility of your medication before undertaking any change in nutritional approach or fasting protocol. Many medications are known to be incompatible with longer fasting without adjustment. Be safe and don't trust our word for it.